And that's Amari Cooper traded to the Buffalo Bills. It's a pick swap that includes Cleveland getting a third-round pick from Tom Pelissero. Had the breaking news. All right, Matt, what do you think about this? Amari Cooper, who you could tell is not really feeling it in Cleveland the last few weeks, ever since Joe Flacco was no longer throwing him the ball every single down. What do you think about this? I think it's really, really interesting. I think it's fun.
Oh, I think it's super fun, and I think it makes so much sense for Buffalo because I've been saying for weeks now on this show, any other show that I'm on, that I think Buffalo has the worst outside wide receiver play in the NFL, or at least they're up there, and especially from a separation standpoint. Keon Coleman is not ready to be that guy. Matt Collins is not that guy. I mean, Matt Collins, man, is still running 75% of the routes.
Of course, he catches the touchdown after I called him Robin Lopez. I was like, you gotta be kidding me, man.
I mean, he catches a touchdown right after Josh Allen misses Curtis Samuel on a touchdown. That felt like a personal attack on me. Okay, so I took that personally, Buffalo. But yeah, man, I mean, these guys are, I think they're okay ancillary players. I've always said I would love to see Keon Coleman deployed more as a slot. Certainly just, how about get him off the line of scrimmage? How about just not make him, like, I thought Matt Collins would be their sacrificial X receiver, and it's really Keon Coleman's like their sacrificial X receiver. I think there's just much better ways to deploy him. And Amari Cooper's tough this year, man, because I don't think he's had a great season to start the year, but how much of that is because he's just, like you said, not feeling it? He does have like a 10% drop rate on the year, depending on which source you're looking at. But also, fantasy points data, those guys do a great job like charting and data and stuff like that. They have a stat, uncatchable air yards due to inaccurate passes.
Okay.
Because there's obviously air yards, there's uncatchable air yards, but this is specifically inaccurate throws, that made them uncatchable air yards. 52.1% of Amari Cooper's 676 air yards on the season have been uncatchable due to inaccate passes.
52?
Over half!
I thought you were going to say like 28, 31, somewhere around there, and I thought that would be high. 52!
352 air yards just not on the table. So it's so hard to look at anything he's done from a production standpoint and assign that to the player. And Cooper's an interesting guy because I think at different points in his career, back in Dallas especially, I thought he was a little bit overrated just because he was kind of more of a boom bust player. Anytime people would be like, oh, Amari Cooper, one of the best route runners in the league. He's a route technician. It's like, yeah, sometimes. And then other times I thought it would kind of come and go. And that's the reason he'd have these big games and slower games. Sometimes that's not always the case. Boom bust production doesn't always result in it's not the wide receiver's fault. With Cooper, I think sometimes it was. But then not this year, but the previous 2 years in Cleveland, I thought he's played the best football in his career as the true X receiver on that team, running these in-breaking vertical routes on play action. We know the Bills, and you've talked about this a lot, want to be a ground and pound physical run team. They got a great game out of Ray Davis last night. Yeah. Really interested to see how he mixes in here. So Cooper becoming that X receiver for this team and running those in-breaking routes potentially on play action plays, I just think it makes so much sense from an addition standpoint. Of course, I don't think 52% of his air yards will be uncatchable due to inaccurate throws because of Josh Allen.
He's Amari Cooper because that was his rep. He was a highly touted prospect and going into college and then going into the NFL. I was around him in Oakland. Is that everyone wants him to be the route runner guy, and he's best vertically and intermediate. And that's where when he gets to kind of move around a little bit, he can do X, which is kind of nice about him is that he can do a few things, like line up in a few spots, but attacking vertically is kind of more what it is, not the route running king, footwork king stuff. Who needs that right now? The Buffalo Bills. I like Amari a lot with this other group of receivers because him and Khalil Shakir could do some cool stuff together because they could both be inside, they could be outside, they could do some stuff. Like you said, you talked about the bully stuff, the bully spread. I think is the term. I don't remember if it was spread bully or bully spread, but one of them works. And I think that is where this is nice. That it gives it some breathing room. That offense works even better when the safeties are 16 yards, not 12 yards, 10 yards, and just now those gains become 7 yards as opposed to 3. And I'm glad you mentioned Ray Davis, by the way, because that's how I envisioned this run game with Ray Davis. And it was like, oh, that's exactly what I pictured. Oh, this is great. This is exactly what we need. So now you got the stay on schedule guy. You have James Cook once he gets back, explosive plays with that. And he's I think has improved as a runner a little bit, being more disciplined. And then now you got explosive pass catcher. Spoilers, I had the Bills in my top 10, but it's still, even right now, I might be bumping them up because this makes me a little bit. This is exactly what they needed. I didn't like Amari Cooper with some teams, but I love him with the Bills. This is what they needed. He needs to get there. Glad he brought down catchable stuff, because I think Amari has always been like that. He's a smart player, and he's kind of one of those guys. He knows when things aren't right. And he's not the guy that kind of like goes like, all right, I'm going to overcome this. He's like, I don't know, I'm not really feeling it. He's going to feel it with Josh Allen ripping him throws and ripping those intermediate balls. And this is just going to give this offense some breathing room. A team that I feel pretty good about with the Bills right now, better than maybe I expected a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, I really like this for them.